Good evening. Welcome to Smithfield Town Council meeting tonight, April the 7th, 2026, and it's 6:30. At this time, I'd like to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. First order of business is the closed session. We have a consultation with the legal counsel regarding legal advice, more specifically closed session procedures pursuant to 2.2-3711 A8 in the Code of Virginia, and we also have a discussion of interviews with selected legal firms for general legal services pursuant to 2.2-3711 A1 and A29 of the Code of Virginia. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we recess into closed session for consultation with legal counsel requiring legal advice, more specifically closed session procedures pursuant to 2.2-3711 A8 of the Code of Virginia, and further discussion of interviews from selected legal firms for general legal services pursuant to 2.2-3711 A1 and A29 of the Code of Virginia.
We have a motion by Mr. Bowman. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Beavermeyer. Any other further discussions? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
No.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to have a motion be made to come out of closed session and head back into open session. And the only thing that was discussed during the closed session was consultation with legal counsel regarding legal advice, more specifically closed session procedures pursuant to 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia, and the discussion of interviews with selected legal firms for general legal services pursuant to 2.2-3711A1 and A29 of the Code of Virginia. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion as stated and further certify that only those items that were discussed pursuant to going into closed session were discussed.
We have a motion by Mr. Bowman. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Harris. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye. At this time, we'll have the informational section from the town's managers' activity reports.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, the activity report for the previous month is included in the packet, as well as the committee summary reports. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer those.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Stallings? Hearing none, we'll move to public comments. We have three signed up. Robbie Younger.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robbie Younger. I live at 19001 Farm Road in Smithfield, Virginia, 23430. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, all town council. Can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to comment, and I missed the one session, I think it was a few months ago, but I'm against any increase in short-term rentals in the historic district. I agree with Councilman Bowman, who was concerned about over-concentration will destroy the ambiance of Smithfield, the historic district. Also, Council Biebermeyer, which, you know, her sentiment where homeowners want to know their neighbors. They should not have a rotating influx of short-term rentals passing through, and I think most of us would feel the same way. Wherever we would live, we wouldn't want an influx of different people that we know. And also I was concerned that if that goes forward with more, then commercial real estate companies could buy some of the rentals, the historic buildings in town, and putting the everyday homeowners wouldn't be able to afford to buy a home in historic Smithfield because they'd be making money off of that. Please consider the residents over tourists. There's so many nice places people can stay. And just another point was that my friend just came from Key West, and they've lived down there. Her and her brother and his fiance have lived down there for, I don't know, 30-some years. And they have said how it has really destroyed Key West, that he had a rental and the increase had just gone up exponentially. And then when they come, I'm sure not all people, but they've really caused problems because they rent an area, and there's been some disruption and stuff in these, neighborhoods that they've always lived in. And just one last thing I want to ask: could you do the closed session and after we're all waiting here? I mean, that's just something I just wanted to throw in there. So anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Younger. Appreciate your comments. This time we have Lynn Briggs signed up. I would like to remind everyone we have a time limit of 5 minutes for comments. You did good, Robbie.
Good evening. I'm signed up for the public hearing. Are we at the public hearing now?
No, this is the public comments.
Okay, I thought I crossed my name off of that one. So,
Okay, you can come back to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next is Chris Gwaltney.
Christopher Gwaltney, professional engineer. I reside at 1 James V. Circle, Smithfield, Virginia. Been there for 34 years. Been voting in Smithfield for almost as many years. I voted for all of you. I believe at one time, not sure how many more times. Depends on I guess whether y'all want to run again. I'm gonna try to make it quick, but I got a couple. I didn't even have any notes until y'all gave me this nice paper here to look at. So, the first thing I wanted to piggyback on what she said, the public comment section might need to move a little bit ahead of schedule, because I wanted to talk about some of the issues that y'all went into closed session about. I do want to commend Darren Cutler. Him and I don't necessarily agree on everything, or many things, but one thing I can say is he answers the phone when I call him, and he listens to what I have to say. And I think it takes a real man to vote no. Anybody can vote yes, and when you're the one person voting no and you think, you know, I could just go ahead and vote yes and won't have to spend this political capital, you know, being the bad boy that can't get along with everybody. You're very tempted to go ahead and let your values go and just go with the flow. And that's not what we want. So whether or not I agree with everything he votes no against, I'm going to say I appreciate and applaud him for doing that when he feels like it's important. On the consent agenda, maintenance service contract, Dave Service Center, I just want to say that not too long ago I had to have my car towed and got Dave Service Center to do it, and they do an excellent job. And I like seeing businesses in the town getting the tax money that we have. So the more we can do that, the better, and I applaud you guys for doing that. Down here on the list there's Xylem. About a year ago, I talked to some council members about an issue with trees on the power line, and they said they did something about it, but we haven't seen much. In my neighborhood, there are trees all in the power lines. Every time the wind blows, just the other day, the power was out, and I would like for the town to address that. I've got several items of how it can be addressed. At the very minimum, someone should reach out to Virginia Power and tell them they're not doing a good job with what they're supposed to do. And if that doesn't work, we may need to step in and help them out a little bit. I don't know what this resolution of acceptance of permanent and temporary easements and other properties is all about. We don't get to learn a whole lot about what this stuff is about. But I'm just going to assume that it's a plan to make it easier for y'all not to have to vote on every single little easement that comes through. And I'm not necessarily in favor of that, because I want y'all to vote on everything. I want you to vote on more things and not less things. So if that is the intention of it, and I understand that it's cumbersome, but that's what you guys get paid to do, even though I recognize that you don't get paid a whole lot. The last thing I'll speak about is this motion to approve town council summary minutes. And I'm a little dyslexic because I always say minute meetings instead of meeting minutes. But I was on the town board of zoning appeals for 10 years. I was the chairman for 3, I think. And before I was the chairman, we did verbatim minute meetings. And at some point in time, the decree came down from the town staff that we weren't doing verbatim meeting minutes anymore, because certain people that are not in the room opened their mouth up and said things that they didn't want recorded. And even though I was the chairman and I had a quorum of people that were ready to vote that we would continue to do verbatim meetings for the Board of Zoning Appeals, which doesn't even meet but once a year anyway, the town staff and my good friend Bill Riddick told me they really didn't care what I thought about it, whether I was the chairman or the man sweeping the floors. So we don't have that anymore. So I'll just reiterate that to y'all, and that goes back to these taking meetings in closed session, and I understand all the reasons why we voted, but we voted for it, and then we voted against it, and now we're going to vote on some way in between, I guess. But transparency is what we want, and y'all know I can talk and I can say stuff I ain't supposed to say all day long, but I'm a man, and I'm going to admit it if I say something wrong, And that's the way I want it to be done. So I would suggest that you guys consider that also in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gwaltney.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
It's come up twice already pertaining to closed session being at the beginning of the meetings. You will recall when I first came on, there was some concern about having closed sessions at the end of the meetings for a number of reasons. A lot of it had to do with, the press may have had a deadline that was being kept here, and it just was requested for transparency that the closed sessions be held at the beginning of the meeting so that the populace would know what was going on and what was going to be taken care of. And then when we came out, we would notify the public of what we had voted on, just as we did a little while ago from a certification process and things like that. So I just wanted to remind those that did not recall that, that's where that process and that's where that procedure came from. We had, before coming on, I'd heard some concern about having closed sessions at the very, very end of the meeting, everyone leaving and then no one knowing what went on in the closed session. So double-edged sword, but that's the rationale behind why those closed sessions are now and have now been being held in the beginning of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Anyone else from council have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have some comments.
Mr. Gully has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think that it's germane to this meeting with the public hearing that we're about to have, to give a little background. I think one meeting ago, a month ago, what should have been a really celebratory, positive announcement was shrouded in an unplanned agenda item and not a really good discussion of the background and how we got to where we were. So I would like to take just a minute, probably about 5 minutes, and go through just generally, but fairly concise, to give the citizens some background on how we got to the Grange purchase. And by the way, we could call it something else, the new town land, or something else. So anyway, so take a minute to discuss that. That land at the end of Main Street, formerly the Grange, maybe affectionately known as the Pierceville Farm. I want to say about the process first. It's a process that I'm also unhappy with. I saw comments, and received some comments of happy with the outcome, not happy with the process. I would say I could agree with that. Many of us probably could, I suspect. I'm happy with the outcome, and I think it should have been celebrated and released more happily in our previous meeting. But as necessary as some closed sessions might be, other than our last meeting, I would say that although a dissatisfying process, it was well executed. And I've been through a few non-well executed processes, and this was not one of them. Our attorney, our town manager, kept that process above board and properly run the entire time. So how did we get to that point? So it began with the land being offered to the town with that last iteration of the proposal that everyone saw, with the farmer's market and I think 119 homes, and the land that was going to be given to the town and the citizens of this beautiful town. And I considered a concept: what if our land could come to the front of that property at Main Street and really benefit the town instead of being on the back kind of point of that triangle shape as the property is? And some discussion started happening around that concept. And in that position, there could have been a town center with the farmer's market or something of that nature. And it seemed like, as a concept, with an additional philanthropy effort of the developer, delivering the utilities to the property line of the property given to the town, and a few other asks, such as keeping the 119 house number and a few other items. It would be an improvement that would enhance the town and the entrance to the historic district and allow us to have the farmer's market and other elements completely under the town control on town-owned property. But it would also require the payment of the $1.4 million of the previous commitment. So a meeting was then held about the concept, and it was discussed. And at this point, it's an idea, if you will. There's nothing solid about it. It's just an idea. And from there, it became a conceptual idea, but again, just a thought, an idea to discuss. And it actually was a resurfacing of a kind of an iteration of the original idea, come to find out, which was quite interesting. So then you saw then over several months, a handful of closed sessions were held, and that was this body evaluating the concept. Okay, looking at this, we had an approved project, we had a proposed project, and then we had a conceptual idea, and there was nothing more. So we had already worked through and approved a project far in the past, a couple years ago, and then we had a new project proposed that was a pretty decent project, perhaps, but then we had a philanthropic effort to really help the town out with some property. And properly positioned, it would have been quite nice. I think most of us could probably agree with that. So we had those closed sessions, but in the end, we kind of got back to the same problem, and the costs of, one of the discussion points we had with the developer was deliver, here's our property line, deliver the utilities to our property line, and if that's a philanthropic effort to do that, and then that saves us the cost of then having to do that. But that and some things such as that really just allowed us to not meet in the middle, and the concept really just never made it off the cutting room floor, to use a phrase, so to speak. It just never got to a point to release and discuss. So at that point, a good faith effort had really been made by both parties, the council and the developer, to pursue the concept and bring it back to the public, but there was simply a lack of common ground, untenable costs for the town, and so it never made it out of that consideration place, okay? And that's why it proceeded as it did. But I would say that when I say a dissatisfying process that was well executed, I will say that myself and all 6 of my colleagues, the town manager, our attorney, and all the rest of the staff did their due diligence on this and did it very well, in my opinion. I think it was well executed, well supported by our town staff, and I think our town council, every member of it, was present, engaged in every meeting, because that's the only place we talked about it, okay? So what you witnessed was a process of evaluation of an idea that took place over a number of meetings that were listed in the public document, although they were held in closed session, and therefore a transparent effort was being made to relay to the citizens. So as the concept, it just fell apart. Common ground could not be found. So the question was asked if they would consider going back to the old plan, or perhaps it was going to be for sale. And I don't think the old plan was really feasible, because as we proceeded through that concept, those numbers grew. And that likely, possibly would have been the same case in the previous plan, but I guess we'll never know. But if not going to go back to that previous plan, was there a consideration to sell the property? So after the concept fell apart, the land was then offered to the town at that price, the price that we came out of closed session, and as soon as we had an opportunity to bring facts to the public, that is what we did, and brought that price that was offered to us as soon as two meetings away, our first meeting with decision-making capability. And while it's certainly not my area of expertise, but there was much discussion around the price, and there was a lot of thoughts among some that are more well-versed in the home building environment that property, as a approved, nearly 300 home or whatever, I forget the number, development, actually had a much higher price tag than that, leaving us with an evaluation of the number that was presented to us. So we've discussed as a body in our retreats and a couple other times, sometimes we have to make decisions for the long-term benefit of the town, and even though they might not be popular in the immediate moment, but I believe this was one of them. This piece of property really gives the town opportunities for our town resources, as well as leverage for a number of things, and I'll go through it. I'm going to end with a list of ideas. But so we came out of what, I'll call it a bungled closed session. We had a little hiccup going in, and we didn't really give a great explanation of how the decision was arrived at. So, let me start by giving you that as an example. So that's how we went into closed session. So this unsatisfying process was executed above board despite closed session, and it protected all the parties involved as allowed by law. So when you're negotiating the price, if it's a lower price than what you may sell it to a competitor for, then you may not want that released. When the purchase was pursued and the sale price seemed to be tenable, we brought it to the floor immediately once we believed that. So what you saw basically is what I'm explaining is a step-by-step process that was publicly advertised for discussion. But what I want to stress is it was a conceptual idea. There was never, we had nuts and bolts of a basic drawing and an analysis of what our costs would be, and maybe a few other incidental things. But those were really enough for us to, determine what was right for the town. And I think that's an example of a good process. So we had month after month after month of public notification of a closed session about a singular topic, so we know it's being discussed. And you could compare that to the motion to stop taking minutes in closed session, where it's added to the agenda as a surprise. The whole council doesn't know about it. Some people know about it and they're prepared to talk, others are not. And its final action is taken in the meeting that it's initially introduced. And that would be an example of a process that has not run through a very transparent manner, as opposed to the one that is in the agenda month after month. So I just want to stress that that process was well executed and well shepherded by our town staff and town manager. As for the future, though, so let's get to the good side, and this is where I think we should all be smiling. And so as for the future, the choice is now ours. It's now the citizens' choice, this town council's choice. The town council and the citizens, and I firmly believe that it should have been a celebratory announcement with enthusiasm and excitement for the future and the possibilities we now have. Someone had asked, does the town council have a plan? No, we don't. And I think that if we had come out and said, we're going to spend $6.5 million on this land, and we already have a plan to spend $30 million more on something else, it would have been a much greater uproar. What this project actually needs is rigorous citizen input and guidance on how to proceed with this very valuable, and what I mean valuable is not in $6.5 million, and that it's valuable to the future of this town and the children of the people that live in this town today, that this property can be really something wonderful, our town, and it's perfectly situated to be such. So I think immediately it would be prudent to make some basic improvements to the parking lot, right? Clean it up, get it resurfaced, make it useful so we can use it for parades, staging, Main Street Baptist Church and our other neighbors' parking, the museum. But after that, I've had a few citizens contact me about this, and one said, this could be 40 years in the making to get to these 57 acres resolved. So it's not something that we have to rush into, but we need a comprehensive plan for it that has rigorous citizen involvement. And I'm almost done. So I'm just going to run down a list of the possibilities of what could happen in this property. Okay, and this is my brainstorming, and I truly look forward to the brainstorming of our citizens to bring us the ideas. But so first, we could do nothing. We could keep it natural and have that natural property there, or keep it natural farmland and farm it. We could do basic improvements to allow public use of the lot in the natural area. We could build a town center with a farmer's market and maybe other elements, such as a replacement for this building, and consider selling some of our other properties for new commercial use that we would be, putting a municipal use on that property, so we wouldn't double our municipal footprint. We could partnership with true resident partners that we have, such as the county, to do work on that property that would, help us absorb some of the utility costs. Or in some manner of cooperation with our anchor employee that since its founding in 1936, no matter who was leading it, they continue to this day to be our partner. And on that property, a number of things through partnership could happen with. A new school could go there, could be a cooperation in Smithfield.
I'm all right.
Yes, sir.
Booby trap.
I was about to come running. So cooperation with Smithfield Foods may be prudent. They've experienced some growth, and their profit's substantial, maybe they're going to grow some more, and maybe there's a room for cooperation there, and that would bring great new jobs to our town, which would be valuable for everyone. And that need may already be there because of the 150 to 200 employees that just came in the last year. But we own the property. We could partition it off and use the Main Street facing portion for town municipal use and the rear part to court to a business, as we now have a bargaining chip. We're not dependent on a developer to help us get something our citizens desire. We had today, Aldi. We've already been contacted by a citizen saying, Aldi's expanding and growing, maybe you can get them to come and build on that property.
Let me give credit to Herb DeGroff. If I don't, we'll never hear it.
Yes, sir, thank you. So, the limited scope that we have at Luter Sports Complex. We could expand Luter Sports Complex for other sports and activities that our citizens want on that property. Fuse Grove, modern satellite offices for our emergency response forces, or any mix of these thoughts, okay? So what's next? Well, I don't know, but we could do a number of ways, okay? So I think it should sit for a while. I think Michael Stallings, town manager, probably has a good idea of some cheap fixes that would make it readily usable pretty soon in the future. I'm willing to bet. But it could sit for a while. We could create a committee to work with citizen groups to interface with the public, determine what the community needs, or we could do something else and think outside the box. This is just an example. I recently read about this is an innovative way to get to the root of community needs and help government officials understand what the community wants, and it's called a citizen assembly. And it's basically, I'm looking at the police chief, so it's basically, it's like jury duty, right? Except instead of going and being on a jury, you would come here and have a meeting, probably led by the town manager's representative, and develop model policy or recommended policy, or in this case, recommendations, or what collectively, as the citizens discuss what they would like to see there, what the majority or what different opportunities we have to do there to satisfy our citizens. It allows you to use a bigger group, and the only punitive action is, jury duty you can't not show up to, but for this, I guess we could say, we won't fine anybody. But you could do 50 people at a time from our 9,000 person population. We could do it quarterly for a year and come up with probably a lot of good ideas. But that's just an out-of-the-box idea I want to throw out. But really, I implore our citizens. I'm so happy to see so many people here tonight to speak in this public session. And I want to say that I think that a couple things that I believe about what happened with this property is, one, a well-executed, disappointing process. I think that we all wish that we could handle our business right here in this room and it protected the interests of everyone involved, but unfortunately that's not what happens in real life. But even though it's a disappointing process, it was well executed. And then I think we got a property for some level of fairness. I think that I believe that the price was at some level of fairness and was likely worth more as it stood if sold to another developer. And so it was a decision we had to make for the future of the town, and I'm honored that I participated in making this decision with this town council, because I think it will stand the test of time on the corner of Main Street, and there'll be a benefit to the citizens of this town for another 100 years. I hope this helps our citizens with understanding our process and how we had navigated through this, and if you have questions, I would do my best to answer your emails. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler. Any other council members have any comments at this time?
Very briefly,
Please, Mr. Bowman.
email came in this afternoon from Riverside Hospital called The First 90 Days. We discussed this with Chief Carroll the last time he was here to discuss his report, but just a matter of numbers, in the past 3 months, 322 surgeries have been performed, 452 patients have been admitted for care, more than 9,763 imaging studies have advanced timely diagnosis, and more than 4,081 patients entered our emergency room and 0 left being seen. This is from Kristen Whip, Chief Philanthropy Officer. So once again, we can't be any more proud of that wonderful, wonderful asset that we have that serves our community so well.
It's quite impressive. Anyone else have any comments? I would like to make a comment to Mr. Bowman. He would like to be somewhere else tonight, and I think he could share that what he'd like to be with, but he's sacrificed himself for town council tonight. Can you please talk about that moment?
Well, it's just not me, but the American Legion, as they do every year, provides service awards to outstanding members of the public safety community, police, fire, and rescue. And talking a little out of school, but anyway, my son was notified this afternoon to be there to receive an award. So, yeah, well, I would at times much rather be there, but this is the job, and he understands as well. But I do salute all of our public safety providers, as well as the American Legion. And I don't know with the VFW, but normally sometimes they do it jointly or whatever. But it's really nice for these civic groups to remember the good work that our volunteers and police officers do for our community. So kudos actually go to that organization. But thank you for bringing it up, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I really appreciate the work. Colin's done a great job, and to be recognized as being so young, I think we all wish him well in his endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else have any comments? Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. We have public hearing coming up. You'll have a chance to speak then.
No, I was talking about just regular public comments. You usually ask them, is there anybody else that wants to speak?
We've already had those. Well, we had public comments, then we had council comments. Chris, do you have a comment on that?
I think it's up to you as the mayor to set the agenda. I do believe you moved on from public comment to council comment, but I think that you transitioned quickly to council comment because there are a couple council comments to be made. So I think it's your call as the mayor to set the meeting whether you want to go back in the agenda or move forward.
We can step back if you'd like to come up at this time. Thank you, Mr. Hines. Thank you. I apologize.
That's all right. Bob Hines, 216 Washington. I get the both sides of about the closed session being before or at the end. And I understand you come out and talked about what you talked about. But I don't know about the others, but I don't know a bit more about what you talked about other than what it is that you said. We talked about this and we voted on things and we approved what we said. I don't know anything else. So if this one was done at the end, it wouldn't have made any difference to me, probably not anybody else either. But if there was more said about it, then great. That's it. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Hines.
Just go.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Brooks.
sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I think Mr. Bowman was getting ready to say pretty much the same thing that I was going to say. When we ran for this position 4 years ago, the previous council, I believe it was the October meeting, they had their closed sessions at the end. At that meeting, it was a long meeting. That council went into closed session. Everybody had left, including me. So when that council reconvened, they opened up the meeting as they should, yet they had a vote. They voted to commit $1.4 million to the Pierceville property, and nobody knew about it. That may have been one reason I got elected, quite honestly. I came in with issues with that property, with concerns, and I believe that the new mayor, which would at that point be Mr. Bowman, he decided that we were going to have closed sessions at the beginning. That way, if any actions were going to be taken on the closed session and voted on, it would happen there in front of the public, and it would be totally transparent. So that's just my opinion on how I think this played out. So having closed sessions at the beginning has its benefits. If it's mundane things like what we just went through, sure, that would probably be better at the end. But we don't know what's going to be on that agenda, and that's really the mayor's call to set the agenda, and this we've been doing it since Mr. Bone took over as mayor 4 years ago.
And Mayor Smith, just to follow up, I may have misunderstood Mr. Hines, but I think he made the comment that some things we did this and voted on. I want to make sure that people know that we do not vote and we do not take votes in closed session, ever. Okay, I misunderstood. Thank you. All good. We're all good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right,
Shall we
thank
move
you.
on?
We'll move to the consent agenda at this time. We have Finance Chair, Mr. Brooks, with A, B. Can you give us a rundown of that,
Yes,
please?
sir. Thank you. I would like to make a motion to award our vehicle maintenance services to Dave's Service Center. In addition, we have 3 invoices that need council approval. One from Virginia Control and Electrical Services for $23,596. Another one from Virginia Control and Electrical for $96,600. And the last one to Xylem for $55,032.96.
Next on the agenda is Public Buildings and Welfare. Mrs. Butler.
Okay, C, D, and E are similar in concept. C, I'd like to make a motion to accept the utility easements for Liberty Baptist Church. And we discussed that in detail at our committee meeting. And basically what is happening is 15.2-1803 of Code of Virginia requires the acceptance of conveyances of real estate per the approved Liberty Live site plans, a 2,608,488,000 square foot utility easement. That's not right. 2,608,488 square foot utility easement dedicated to the town of Smithfield was required. Liberty Live provided the required easement on the easement plat, and now the town needs to accept the dedicated easement. So that's what that motion is for Liberty Live. D is a motion to accept the utility easement for battery park storage. And E, I'd like to make a motion for a resolution authorizing the acceptance of permanent and temporary easements and other property interests related to the town public utilities. F, this is in reference to Mallory Point. I'd like to make a motion for a supplemental agreement to the subdivision agreement for Phase A, Section 1 of Mallory Point dated December 14, 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Last on the consent agenda item is a motion to approve the town council summary minutes for March the 3rd, 2026. I know our attorney has had his nose in those, looking at those, and if you had any comments on that, I'd appreciate those at this time.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
I have no comments. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda items, specifically items 8A, B, C, D, E, F, and G of the agenda.
We have a motion by Mr. Bowman. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Harris. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
This time we move to the action section. We have a public hearing, rezoning and comprehensive plan amendment. Ms. Tammy Clary, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of .251 acres of the property from conditional suburban residential to light industrial. The applicant is also requesting to alter the comprehensive plan through the future land use map, changing residential mixed use to flex industrial. This application will facilitate an addition to the property at 19351 Battery Park Road, and that will allow that addition to meet the required setbacks. Planning Commission did favorably recommend this application at the March 10th meeting. Town Council's action One is a decision on the rezoning from CSR to I1, and 2, a decision on the comprehensive plan amendment, future land use map amendment from residential mixed use to flex industrial. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. This time I'd like to open the public hearing. We have one sign up, Christopher Gwaltney.
All right, I'm trying to bat 1,000 tonight, y'all. So Christopher Gwaltney, 1 James B. Circle, Smithfield, Virginia. That's in the Moonfield area of Smithfield. 34-year resident. I'm not 100% familiar with this project, but I think it may be another example where something was built in Isle of Wight County and unfortunately became a part of the town, whether they wanted to be or not. And that's sort of the fallacy of these future planning maps and the different things that we do. They don't take into account any long-term planning. As far as changing this zoning, I'm 100% in favor of it because basically they're going to get permission to use the property the way they've always been using it before we got involved in it. And maybe they're going to expand it, and that's probably good. What I'm not a big fan of is these little spot zonings. Oh, we're going to build something over here, let's zone this. Oh, we're going to build something over here, let's zone that. It doesn't make sense to me, and as an engineer, I like things to make more sense than less sense. So this is really more of a general commentary on how our zoning system works. In 2009, I ran for town council and lost, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. But one of the things I ran about was the zoning problems that we have in the town. My house was built in Isle of Wight County, and then it became part of Smithfield. And the Smithfield zoning doesn't match the zoning as it was in Isle of Wight County. Mind you, the houses have been built. They're there. The town wanted me to tear half my garage down because I didn't meet your zoning requirements. The house was already there. The zoning is messed up in this whole town. And I've asked for year and year and year since 2009 for somebody to make those changes. And you guys are in the process of updating the zoning ordinance again. And no one's fixed any of these problems that we have. So that's my problem with it. You lose faith in the system when the system is not working for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gwaltney. Anyone else have any comments? Please come forward. State your name, address.
It's Marvin Smith, 10283 Newport Street in Battery Park. I'm the owner of the property that we're trying to get this zoning deal done. And I worked for several months with the developer over at Mallory Point wanting to give an easement for the town of Smithfield to run a pipe in front of the property. And we were in the process of trying to figure out how we could get an addition on the building to update our services that we do for everybody here in town. So really, this is a win-win for everybody on this particular deal. We're going to get a town of easement that's in perpetuity to the town of Smithfield, and in turn, Mallory Point developer was able to give us enough property that was actually unused space that we could add this addition on and have all of the town easements taken care of. So they can come right on through around. It's going to save everybody a lot of money. That's all.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. What's the wish of council?
Mr. Mayor, before you move on to discussion, just wanted to make sure that the applicant had an opportunity to speak if he, or an applicant rep wanted to.
That was him.
That the owner applicant? Okay, I saw he was the owner. I didn't know if the owner and the applicant were
Right.
separate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What's the wish of council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rezoning comprehensive plan amendment, future land use map amendment, TPIN number 22-01-026-M Mike C. Charlie, S. Sierra F. Foxtrot, LLC applicant.
Have a motion by Mr. Bowman. Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
We have a second by Mr. Harris. Any other further discussion? Call for the question.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beepermeyer,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. At this time, we'll move to a public hearing for the acquisition or disposition of real property. Mr. Stallings?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. As you are aware, at the last meeting, Council directed us to start the process of acquisition of the 20 parcels comprising 57 acres at the 10 and 258 intersection. As the council pursues our master planning process for what will eventually happen on that parcel, we're aware of the fact that it may involve us disposing of some pieces of it for in support of whatever the long-term use is on that property, whether it's leasing, selling, things of that nature. So because of that, we have to have a public hearing because we know ahead of time there may be some future commercial or business use that happens on that parcel. So to comply with those requirements in state code, you have to have a public hearing if you know ahead of time that may be a possible use of the property. So this is an opportunity to get input from the public on that potential future use, and then we proceed from there. But that's the purpose of the public hearings, to get the input on that potential commercial use, business use of property.
Thank you, Mr. Stallings.
Yes, sir.
This time I'd like to open the public hearing. We have several sign-ups. The first one is Sabrina Dooley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sabrina Dooley. I live at 1306 Rivers Arch in Carrollton, but I work for Smithfield and Allied County Tourism as the Farmers Market Manager. For the future of the Smithfield Farmers Market and its vendors to succeed, we desire a permanent home. The market is perpetually at risk of losing our current location, as you know, at the Bank of Southside, Virginia. At the bank's request, we are currently on a year-to-year lease renewal basis. Our market vendors are persistently at the mercy of Mother Nature, as weather constantly disrupts our set market schedule on Saturday mornings. But luckily enough, this past weekend, with our opening day, it was beautiful. Without a permanent structure, our vendors face a multitude of weather obstacles, such as precipitation, which can damage their product and deter customers from coming out, wind, a dangerous factor where we currently sit in a wind tunnel, heat, a dangerous factor where in the past few years we have started to have cases of heat exhaustion from both customers and vendors and have had to call out the rescue squad, and cold. As our vendors strive to earn their living each and every weekend, weather is truly our biggest obstacle. As our top priority is the safety of vendors and the public, we prioritize the time and effort our vendors put into their business, not only on Saturdays, which is the day of the market, but also the week leading up to the market. With a forecast of bad weather, we strongly consider the time, effort, and money the vendors put into preparation, especially the farmers and the food vendors, prior to making a weather call for the event. We were lucky enough to be able to partner with the Smithfield Center to offer a once-a-month indoor farmers market during our off-season months of January, February, and March. This was able to provide our vendors with the opportunity to make an income during the cold off-season months, as well as offer our community an opportunity to help our local economy, as well as have something fun to do in those off months. We are lucky enough again to partner with the Smithfield Center to offer farmers markets inside for the entire month of August to help combat the brutal heat of the summer when on the asphalt. The market is also in need of more electrical and water hookups. We have very limited access at our current location to satisfy vendor demands. Electricity and water hookups are essential for some vendors. These necessary utilities aid in running registers, cooking food, keeping food at health department temperatures, and using water for health department practices, or even keeping flowers from wilting on a hot, sunny day. Our market is also operating at capacity, where our current location limits us to the number of vendors during our larger markets, although our number of vendors fluctuate each week. 5 years ago, legislators signed House Bill 2302, stating that farmers markets were essential, and that is ever so true. We are lucky enough to not be considered in a food desert, but surrounding areas are, and we help cater to their population. Our vendors provide fresh produce, farm goods, prepared meals, and more to not only our community, but also the surrounding communities that are in need of that access. Our market also partners with the Iowa County Outreach Program, where we have a grant that we use to purchase produce, meat, and baked goods from our vendors and then donate to their food bank. Their program helps hundreds of families in the Iowa County community. Our market has been operating since 2002, making this our 24th year of operation, and has been an award-winning market for years. But to truly thrive and prosper, we require the necessary updates to accommodate our vendors, the customers, and the community. With the purchase of this land, we would be able to have a permanent structure to allow our market to flourish and support our small businesses in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next comment is from Carrie Robinson.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm
Good
sure
evening.
y'all remember seeing me up here at least once or twice. I'm Carrie G. Robertson, Peanut City Candle Company. I live at 2568 Prudent Boulevard in Suffolk, Virginia. I am a member of the Smithfield Farmers Market Board, and what I'm not going to do is stand here and repeat everything that Sabrina just said, because all of it's true, and I've already given that spiel before. But what I do want to do is just simply remind you all that what the town of Smithfield does is very special. I'm in these streets a lot, and that farmers market, a permanent home for the farmers market would be something that is extraordinary and unlike anything else in this area. So one of the things I can tell you is that farmers markets are continuously gaining traction amongst the public, and I think a lot of that is because people are concerned about what's in their food. They're tired of eating, living an Applebee's life. We're all really concerned about what is being put into the food that we purchase, and so being able to go farmer direct for a lot of these things and also support small, worthy businesses, I think we're seeing that trend upwards. And, this year, the Smithfield Farmers Market is probably, so I've participated with this farmers market for 6 years now, and fun fact, I would be considered a success story that's come out of Smithfield Farmers Market. So, it's an opportunity for a lot of other small makers and farmers and businesses to go on and do really well, because I tell everyone that I would not exist, my business would not exist without the Smithfield Farmers Market. So, having that permanent structure, it would dramatically increase attraction and attention for the town of Smithfield. We already know that, downtown, especially on a Saturday during a market time, these things are symbiotic. But I think that you would see a super increase in the amount of visiting or people that are just traveling for the day to come and shop this specific farmers market, because it would stand out above all of the rest, for just simple reasons like it's more comfortable. It's more accessible. We don't have to deal with things like what Sabrina said, weather and things of that nature. So, all I can do is just stand here and, like I said, remind you all that you're doing a fantastic job here. The farmers market is really a crown jewel here in Smithfield, and I would certainly hate to see it continue to struggle the way it has, because as you all know, the last couple of years, it's kind of been like, we don't know where we're going to be, this, that, and the third. So securing that space, I believe that it would do wonders for the town of Smithfield, certainly for the community, and it would also show that the city government is concern about their citizens and concern about keeping the community vibrant and alive, because we really don't need an Aldi. You guys shop at Aldi much? Have y'all ever been in that grocery store? It is literally one of the worst, most frustrating places to shop.
I'm glad Mr. DeGroff is not here tonight.
Look, I'd be willing to tell him about himself. You know, I live right close to an Aldi, and it's literally the worst ever. But anyways, I digress. So that's it. I just want to stand in support of Sabrina and let you all know that, you know, from traveling around and doing what I do as a small and worthy business, I don't think that it's going to be a step in the wrong direction. So
Appreciate your comments. Thank you for coming up.
Yes, y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, we have Robbie Younger.
Hi, hello again, everyone. I'm Robbie Younger. I live at 19001 Farm Road. A little bit my past, I had an art gallery for 20 years on Main Street, a brick and mortar. So don't forget about the brick and mortar, everybody. The businesses and people buy buildings and they renovate them on their own dime. So please don't forget about that. And I was on the board of directors of the chamber for a time and the vice president of the business association. So I strongly care about Smithfield, and I like to see it thrive. But I'm against this $6.5 million purchase of the Grange. I want to thank Councilman Valerie Butler for her dissenting vote against it. I want to thank you for that, Councilman Butler. If it was assessed at $2.9 million and you're purchasing it for $6.5 million, like anytime we have bought property, we would get it assessed, we would try to get the best price. You know, was that done? I don't know. And the town loses, if it was some kind of a business there, $27,000 a year. And the taxpayers, I mean, I understand about the farmers market and all that, but the taxpayers are going to have to be paying for all this new buildings, everything coming forward. I mean, how much is that going to be? You know, 20 million, 50, I don't know. I don't like that everything that's been said so far by town council, like it's already a done deal. I understand we had over 45 days to get out of it. I hope that we get out of it. I don't know if this is true, but I think it's pretty much what Mr. Stallings was saying. If it's true, there's a Virginia Code 15-2-1800 generally requires a public hearing before acquisition. I'm hoping that it's true, and I'm assuming that's sort of what we're doing now. And just not knowing a purpose to buy something that much money, and well, we're going to try to figure it out. I just think that's such an extreme amount of money for that property, and he made so much money on that. If he just bought that property at $3 million in 2020, and now he gets $3.5 million, what a deal! You know, that's just mind-boggling to me. And I want you to all think about also when the government gets involved in buying property. I think about in the past when they bought the I think it's called the Stope property over the bridge for $1 million. The Board of Supervisors did that. I know it's not you guys, but they bought it. And the last thing I heard that it got sold for $100,000. I just don't know if it's your guys' job to determine how to develop a property. I mean, you know, and then also in the past, like Windsor Castle Park, you got a $7.2 million donation. I think it was from Mr. Luter, and a $2 million, like the Windsor Castle was $7.2 million, I think, from Mr. Luter. And the Luter Sports Complex got $2 million from Luter and $1 million from Smithfield Foods. So I don't see anybody giving any big money towards this. I just think it's just a great, it's a big mistake, and I just hope that you don't vote for it and it doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you,
May I ask
for
a
your
question?
comments.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ms. Younger? Yeah. How much would you think that piece of property would be
I don't know,
worth?
I'm not a real estate. I think that it should have been properly appraised.
Okay.
Was it appraised, and why wasn't it?
What, do you put a price on let's say, the future and controllability and potential of what might be? I mean, you said that he bought it at X number of dollars. I think the difference is about $2 million. It's about 57 acres on the western part, the entrance coming into Smithfield, Virginia. I'm just wondering if you think that's too much. What?
I'm just asking that it should have been publicly appraised. I just think that I'm not a real estate person, I'm not an appraisal person. I just think that, like, if I were to buy something that somebody tell me it's gonna be 6.5, I would like to get it appraised. That's all I'm asking.
I'm not an appraiser either, but I've looked at some properties of that size and of that description and things like that. And I just will go ahead and tell you right now, on the record, I think $6.5 million, and you may see sooner than later, probably sooner, you'll find out that that was a pretty good deal for 57 acres.
Yep.
I'll just throw that out to you.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I know it's undeveloped, and I just know that's a ton of money to, get everything rolling. And like I said, I understand about the farmers market and what they want, but that's gonna cost a lot of money to build all that.
Well,
It's all gonna go on the taxpayers.
we have the right to put out requests for proposals. We also, as a municipality, have the right to accept unsolicited proposals.
Right.
Somebody might think,
But-
right.
But the taxpayers this all eventually be on the taxpayers.
May or may not be, depending upon how this is developed and how it works out and how things go. We don't know that yet. It'll be on the taxpayers at the outset, but I can assure you that this town council, none of these members of town council that I've spoken to has any desire whatsoever to burden the taxpayers with this purchase. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, well, who's paying for the $6.5 million now? Isn't that
I
taxpayers?
said on the outset,
Yeah.
the taxpayer.
So it's a lot of money.
But it's a bond.
Yeah.
And I've already been advised as well by Mr. Stallings and the town treasurer that taxes will not be raised because of this decision if it is made.
This is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
most
Ms.
welcome.
Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we have Lynn Briggs.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Lynn Briggs. I reside at 211 North Mason Street. I'm a lifelong resident of the community and a downtown Smithfield resident for over 25 years. I'm also the newly elected president of the historic Smithfield organization, although my remarks tonight are not representative of any other groups. The process surrounding the reacquisition of this property has raised concerns, particularly regarding transparency and communication. As residents, we all want to feel informed and included in decisions that have such a significant impact on our community. That said, I'm here tonight not just to look backward, but to encourage us to look forward. The reality is the town now owns this property, and with that comes a rare and meaningful opportunity. This site sits at a key entrance to Smithfield. It is in many ways a front door to our town. What happens there will shape not only how we grow, but how we present ourselves to visitors, to potential businesses, and to future generations. While I understand there is a clause that allows the town to reconsider this purchase, I would urge you to think carefully before taking that step. Selling the property again would likely put us right back where we started, with a private development proposal and a community divided over its impact. Instead, I encourage you to lean into this moment. This is an opportunity to be intentional, to engage residents openly, to develop a thoughtful, community-driven vision for that space, one that reflects the character of Smithfield, supports our local economy, and enhances the quality of life for those who live here. As we consider what comes next, I also think it's important to ask some practical questions. If the town intends to take on a more active role in developing or managing this property, do we have the capacity and expertise to do that successfully? And are we prepared to absorb the potential tax implications or revenue impacts that could come with that approach? These aren't criticisms. They're the kinds of questions that help ensure we make the most responsible and sustainable decision for our community. Whether that includes mixed-use elements, green space, public gathering areas, or something we haven't yet imagined, or things that were on Mr. Cutler's list that he shared as potentials, This is a chance to do it right and to do it together. But that will require commitment to transparency, a collaboration, and a clear plan moving forward. So my request is this: keep the property, engage the community, and take the time to create something that truly benefits Smithfield, not just today, but for years to come. In my many years, I have seen Smithfield change, and some of those changes have been very iconic. Windsor Castle Park. This property with the Smithfield Center, which this used to be a little strip mall, Smithfield Little Theater, which used to be a cotton gin that became a theater, and the Smithfield Foods headquarters, and a renovated, reinvigorated Main Street. We need a special, and I emphasize special, vision for this property. Make it beneficial, have it represent the community, and turn it into a wonderful space that reaffirms the unique qualities residents and visitors know, love, and have come to expect from Smithfield, Virginia. Thank you for your time, and thank you to your service to our community.
Thank you, Ms. Briggs. Next, we have Christopher Gwaltney.
Ms. Briggs is another local that was an excellent science teacher, and her mother before her, and survived me in class. I don't know if y'all don't know me very well, but I blew up the chemistry lab in Smithfield High School. But the good news was I did it to save a pretty girl. I literally caught myself on fire so she wouldn't. I'll tell you the story one day.
True martyr.
I'm so glad these people talked before me, because I was trying to figure out whether I was going to talk about the good side or the bad side, and I couldn't figure out which. So I'm just going to talk about it for a few minutes. I graduated third in my class in Smithfield High School, which, in my opinion, is the highest that you want to graduate, because you don't have to do anything but just show up and get your diploma. I went to Virginia Tech and got a civil engineering degree, and then started working in Williamsburg. I've worked on some of the highest quality developments in Hampton Roads, including Kings Mill, Ford's Colony. I worked on this little thing called Newtown in the very beginning, and I could write a book about Newtown. It was a great idea until the money got involved in it. It's still a nice project. It has its benefits. But if you could look at what the architects designed versus what the money produced when they put profits ahead of the vision, it's a classic example. So I'm proposing that we call this property Newtown. I don't want to call it Grange anymore, because when I hear Grange, I think about this beard and ZZ Top. Remember they had a song called The Grange, and it went like this. Rumors spreading round that town about that shack outside LaGrange. And you know what I'm talking about. Just let me know if you want to go to that home down on LaGrange. Now, I don't know if you know anything about that song or what it's about, but that's what we don't want. We don't want LaGrange. We want Newtown. I said earlier that I don't agree with a lot of what Darren Cutler says. I don't agree with a lot of what he said early on. This is not a project that we need to waste time thinking about. We've had 20 years to think about what we're doing. The interest clock has already started. I did a little quick math. If y'all let me talk for 5.5 minutes, $6 million is going at $100,000 a second. So I can't tell you how many seconds I've been talking yet. And like people have said, $6 million is just the beginning. You're going to have to get professionals involved in doing this right. I'm not at all in favor of selling any of this land. As a matter of fact, we need to buy more land. I'm not interested in parceling out any land for any little pet projects or anything else. We need to do this thing as a big project. It's going to be a big project. It's going to be a long project. Mr. Bowman is right that hopefully the developers are going to pay for this in the end. But what we've got to do is master plan this thing to make it what it's what we want it to be, and then let the developers decide if they want to build what we want to build. If they can figure out whether what we want makes money or not. Because what we want ain't gonna make no money, I can tell you that already. So we're gonna have to bring everything down a little bit more and make our expectations reasonable. But what I'm asking is that we hire an architect to do a highest and best use of this property and look at it, forget about all the rules, just look at it and say, what is this property? You ever sit and look up in the sky and you say, that cloud looks like a bunny. And you look over here and say, that cloud looks like a fish. Well, when I look at land, I see what it can be. And there's not very many people that can do that. And so what we need is somebody that can show us what it can be. And then we look at it and say, that's not what we want it to be. Go back and try again. And it needs to be a mixed use. It needs to be a mixture. We need to realize that this is the most valuable piece of property in the town. And to recoup our investment, we need to make it high quality. It needs to be a premium. People need to pay extra to be in here. We don't need to be giving it away to the first person that shows up with a 90-day proposal to build a Chick-fil-A. Much as I love Chick-fil-A, I like to have Chick-fil-A and an Arby's, but that's not going to be my decision to make. So I didn't know what I was going to speak about, but I want to name this speech, "Here's Your One Chance, Fancy, Don't Let Me Down." I don't know if you know that song, but this is your one chance.
Can't let that cockroach run across your shoe.
That's it.
Thank you, Chris. This time we have Ross McConnell.
Hey, my name is Russ McConnell.
McConnell?
I live at 109 Latham in Cypress Creek. And Mr. Bowman. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to express my views on this subject, the purchase of the grain property. I want to state at the outset that I'm not necessarily opposed to the township purchasing property, provided there's a good reason for it, and it's purchased at a reasonable price. Unfortunately, I did not get the impression that either of these considerations were present based on the newspaper reporting. According to the newspaper, you have agreed to purchase the Grange property at over twice its appraised value. And so far as I know, and it is confirmed tonight, you have not had an independent appraiser provide you evaluation of the property. Second, again according to the newspaper, you did not give a reason nor purpose for the purpose of this property, although I did hear some interesting ideas. I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't pay over twice the assessed value for a piece of property with my own money. I'm wondering why you think it's okay when you're using taxpayer money. My understanding is that you are supposed to be stewards of our taxpayer money, and I personally don't see much stewardship in this transaction based on the information we have been given so far. I request that you cancel this purchase until such time that we have obtained an independent appraisal and the price gets negotiated from there, and that you provide the citizens of Smithfield with a viable reason why we, the town of Smithfield, should purchase it. Again, thank you for the opportunity to express my opinion.
Thank you for coming up. Next, we have Renee Bevan.
Good evening. My name is Renee Bevan, and I live at 101 Beale Avenue. I want to begin by saying that I strongly support the town's purchase of this 57-acre property. Preserving the land adjacent to our historic downtown is a rare opportunity, and I believe this decision protects the long-term character of our community. I also recognize that this property's rezoning and potential for dense development significantly increased both its value and the urgency of acting. However, supporting the outcome does not mean we should ignore the process we used to get here. This negotiation and decision were conducted largely behind closed doors with no meaningful opportunity for public awareness or input before the vote. Several members of this council ran on platforms emphasizing transparency and accountability. These commitments matter most when decisions are complex, high value, and impactful like this one. Transparency isn't just a slogan, it's what builds public trust. Even when the right decision is made, lack of openness undermines confidence and leaves residents questioning what else they may not be seeing. Going forward, I urge Council to adopt clearer practices around public communication, especially for big impact decisions such as this. Early disclosure, public briefings, and opportunities for input should be the standard, not the exception. And it's my understanding the only reason we're having a public hearing tonight is because if there is a sale in the future, you would have had to have a public hearing. Otherwise, there would be no public hearing. I support this purchase because I believe it protects something irreplaceable, 57 acres of land connected to our historic district. We can debate the price. The reality is we cannot put a true price on controlling the future of this land. But I also believe our community deserves a process that reflects the transparency and accountability that you promised. We should and expect and receive both. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bevan. Next, we have Susie Gay.
Been sitting too long on those hard seats. Good evening. My name is Susie Gay. I live at 110 Goose Hill Way in beautiful Smithfield. Tonight, I'd like to give the Town Council some ideas for the Piercefield property it's considering purchasing. The Piercefield land is extremely historic, so it is imperative that it be used with that in mind. First of all, the purchase price for this land is high, but it's not impossible. The front of the property facing Main Street can be sold as commercial property to offset the initial purchase cost. This commercial area, including the corner of Main and Route 10, is very valuable. Several ideas have been discussed in the past: a hotel, doctor's offices, a retaining pond, a farmer's market, etc. Most of these don't work. Now, Herb DeGroff is going to be having his ears burning on this one. Sorry, guys. But has anyone considered a low-cost grocery store chain? Lidl and Aldi are cheaper than Walmart, according to Consumer Reports. They're smaller stores that are found on the peninsula and Virginia Beach that can save a considerable amount of money compared to regular grocery stores. There is one Aldi in Suffolk. It's downtown. There's no Lidl at all. If you look at the map of where they're spaced out, we don't have anything over here on the peninsula, over here on the south side that's like that. Lidl operates a smaller, limited assortment model. Aldi often saves shoppers money through its limited selection private label model. Both stores are non-existent on this side of the James except for the one in downtown Suffolk, and could bring shoppers in from Surrey, Dendron, Wakefield, and other areas. You get the picture, I'm sure. More shoppers mean more tax money for the town, more restaurant business, and more shopping in general. Secondly, I suggest contacting the corporate office of the YMCA of the Virginia Peninsulas to discuss expanding our Smithfield Y to the land across Carey Street. An outdoor swimming pool long enough for swimming competitions would be a wonderful addition for all Smithfield residents and to be used by all Smithfield residents. Along with a competition pool, there could be more tennis courts. We only have 2 courts next to the Y right now. More courts would mean tennis competitions, again bringing more visitors to town. Pickleball is another extremely popular sport that could also be an addition to the Y extension across Carey. There would be a need to put in a lighted crosswalk similar to what's at Smithfield Station right now, and it would certainly slow down the drivers who don't pay attention to the speed limit on Carey. Lastly, along with these added features, we might need a hotel of some sort, but not a boutique hotel that's been mentioned before. After all, if families are bringing in their kids for baseball, swimming, and pickleball competitions, they will not want to pay boutique prices. But it's imperative that any hotel will need to adhere to our historic district town height restrictions. I hope the town council and town manager will consider and research these suggestions if Pierceville is purchased. It's of the utmost importance to conservatively and responsibly use the land if it needs to be developed at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gay. Next, we have Mary Harris.
Before I speak, can I pass out something to you all? Thank you. What you're receiving, anyway, good evening. I'm Mary Harris. I live at 329 Grace Street in Smithfield, Virginia. What he's passing out are two documents. I want to first thank the town council for having the vision and strength to make the decision to purchase the Pierceville property. Regardless of some of the things I've heard tonight, and in support of some of the things I've heard tonight, this is good news for the town, and we should be celebrating this. How often does a second chance present itself? Most decisions in life do not have a do-over. We all do not get second chances. This is our second chance right now to do what's right for the town of Smithfield. I spoke about this several times in the past about the significance of preserving this property, the Pierceville property, and protecting its historical value to our town, state, and the nation. And I am hopeful that this second chance we will incorporate preservation in our plans. I have passed out the two documents that you're getting now, and I hope you will take the time to read and contemplate these as decisions are made about this very important historic site. The first is a letter from Preservation Virginia from August 1st, 2023. Preservation Virginia is the same organization that saved our courthouse, Bacon's Castle, and works with historic Jamestown. This organization advocated for the preservation of Pierceville for a number of years, even after the Thomas Pierceville house was demolished. To summarize this letter, I won't read it to you because it's a bit long. Sonia Ingram of Preservation Virginia stated in her 8/1/23 letter to the town council, I'm just going to take excerpts from this letter. We highly encourage you to require that the Pierceville site be fully investigated for archaeological deposits and burials before construction begins. Second point, records also indicate that enslaved people lived and worked on this property. Next point, the records also indicate that a burying ground existed on the property, likely containing the burials of enslaved people. It is imperative that the Pierceville site undergo a comprehensive archaeological investigation performed by professional archaeologists with the most up-to-date technologies before it is destroyed. Next point, the archaeological data that could be lost may be some of the most important to the town of Smithfield and Virginia and could be invaluable to the descendants of enslaved people of the area. And one more point, we highly encourage you to require that the site be fully investigated so we can more fully understand the history of Pierceville and Smithfield and its connections to other colonial sites in Virginia. Once this information is lost, it is lost forever. The second document I handed out is from Mark Wagner. He's an architectural historian at the Virginia Department of Historic Resources. I actually think he's retired in the last year or so. This document gives more evidence to the value of this historic property. His efforts were not only to save the buildings, which cannot be saved now, but also recognize the value of the land. So I will leave you with this quote from him. This is a property that is worth retaining if possible. It is a property that may yield significant historic information, valuable to the town and the region. I hope this council takes advantage of this remarkable second chance you've received to do a complete and in-depth archaeological study of the property before any other types of future uses are considered. This land also, I'll leave you with this, may have been a site of some of our Native American, early American settlements. So it has really several very significant historical implications within our town, our region, and for the national level. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next, we have Carleen Ernello. Hope I pronounced that right.
You got close. It's
Arenello.
It's Aranello.
Aranello.
I'm Carleen Aranello at 113 Goose Hill Way. And I will tell you, I'm a little confused because either on one hand we bought the property or on the other hand we haven't bought the property. So I'm a little confused of where we are and what we have done and what we haven't done. So I'm going to say this. If the town council has already, it's a done deal, then I'm happy. However, I'm not happy on the cost, okay? Everybody knows that we do an appraisal on anything that we sell and buy. And we didn't do that as a town. And we should have done that. That should have been the very first thing that we did because there was no improvement on this land. We don't have a significant market appreciation in Smithfield that we can compare it to. We don't have any comparable development in this town that we were going to do for the surrounding area, and no meaningful improvements were made by the LSMP to the property itself. So being silent on that is not acceptable. We should have gotten an appraisal. And our own town manager actually said the town does not plan to have that completed, an independent appraisal. And I think that that is a big deal. The seller actually set that price. The town accepted it. And no one in a position of authority, the one sitting right here at this table, saw fit to verify whether that price was even remotely justified. An independent appraisal is not optional. It is a bare minimum owed to the taxpayers in this room and in this whole town. And I know that Mr. Bowman actually said that there is not going to be an increase in taxpayer, but there will be. We all know that. Because 5 years down the road, when we go to build something, we're going to have to increase because we're not going to have $20 million sitting there and ready to build.
No, what I said was there was not going to be any tax increase based on the procurement of this property at the price that is set.
Okay.
I did not mention improvements or other ancillary things, just to be clear.
Okay, thank you. With that, all I'm asking is for you to relook and make sure that we do the right thing. It is a historical piece of property. We want to have that there, and we want to keep it there. I don't think that we should put a ton of buildings on it. I think that we should keep the land there and actually make it a park, make it a public area for our citizens. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next, we have Paula Cole.
Paula Cole. I live at 334 Gray Street. I've been there since July 2000. So I've been there quite a while. I have loved this town. I have incorporated myself into this town completely. I have a business on Main Street. So I have three concerns. One is Gray Street. I would like it to see extend all the way out to 10. And I'd like to see stop signs all along the way to slow the traffic down, not speed it up. Please slow it down. If you don't live right there, you don't hear them zooming by. You don't hear them increase their speed. From the beginning, they begin to increase their speed all times of the night, all times of the early mornings. It scares me for animals or children that are out near the streets. The next one is the farmers market. I love the farmers market. I've been there since the beginning of when they started. I love where they are. I love that they are downtown, bringing business to downtown. Main Street is downtown at Smithfield. Gray Street is fun. It's fun to be right off of that. It's especially fun at Halloween. If you've ever been there, you've got to come there. The next is Percival. I'm right there. I love Percival. I love the idea of Percival. I am grateful that we are taking it out of the hands of Luter. How in the world he even got approved to be there is beyond my conception. I was here when they originally zoned that area, and somehow he just skirted right underneath it already being zoned. How come he wasn't held to that specific zone, or at least there was some process that the community was not involved in, that even having changed ahead of time. It was already pre-zoned. That I think included numbers of houses, and I understand there's going to be growth. There is going to be growth. There'll probably be growth beyond me, but I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak and kind of share my concerns, and of course, I'm watching. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next, we have Mark Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark Gay, 110 Goose Hill Way. My 30th year of residence after moving my wife 18 times in the first 25 years of marriage, thanks to the United States Army and Uncle Sam. I want to thank the majority of current council for making the best of a difficult choice to ensure that any future development of historic Pierceville properties, and I don't care about the Grange or Newtown, it's Pierceville, complements our historic district, and it recognizes the considerable infrastructure challenges involved and contributes to the public good. Yes, the acquisition price is considerably higher than the $500,000, Mr. Smith, you may remember, the town was asked to contribute to the Trust for Public Land 10 years ago for the planned purchase and renovation of Pierceville. Just water over the dam. I can well appreciate that other high-density developers will be jumping at the opportunity to meet Ms. Luter's current asking price, thanks to what my judgment was a very poor vote of 3-2 to grant the PMUD zoning. That's the elephant in the room. The PMUD zoning makes the acquisition price whatever you want to pay for it. While at the same time removing Pierceville from the historic district and changing the future land use map to accommodate the Luters. We are where we are, at a critical juncture that demands steady foresight in the planning process, accomplished supervision of developmental activity, and commitment to excellence in our final products of what we decide to do. So we've already heard several excellent suggestions tonight for constructive use of the property, and I suspect we will hear more. I will point out simply that Pierceville is a unique green space property with a nearly 400-year colonial history. The Thomas Pierce family were important personage in both Isle of Wight County and the Commonwealth of Virginia. He was one of 2 attendees at the Virginia Constitutional Convention. Benedict Arnold's forces, British forces, camped there at Pierceville en route to the Battle of Mackey's Mill in January 1781. And the Pierce agricultural enterprises and settlements comprised a substantial portion of the current historic district and Drusill subdivision. We need to be very smart about where and how much asphalt we pour on these 57 acres. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Next, we have Lee Abbott Lehman.
If any of you have a hard time staying awake, sit in the back, because you could like raise penguins back there. It's so cold, it keeps you awake.
Members of the council, I want to start by, oh, sorry, Lee Abbott Lehman, 111 Thomas Street, Smithfield, Virginia. Members of the council, I want to start by acknowledging that what you've just done is significant. A $6.5 million land purchase is not a small decision, and it is one that will shape the town for decades. That's exactly why the concern is so serious. We've made a major financial commitment without a stated plan, without clearly communicating the full financial implications to the public. Right now, many residents are celebrating this as preserving open space, and I understand that instinct. But what has not been clearly stated is this: open space at this scale is not free. It comes with a cost, and that cost doesn't go away. It shifts. It can compound. By taking this land off the tax rolls, the town and the county lose real estate tax revenue from the land, and because we are in the county and we talk about being double taxed all the time, we actually have double the loss then. Future tax revenue from any buildings, ongoing revenue from meals tax, business activity, or tourism that could have taken place in any of the structures or businesses there. At the same time, we still have school crowding issues, infrastructure needs, rising service demands, and huge gaps in our entry and workforce housing size ranges. So the question becomes, if this property produces no revenue, who makes up the difference? Because someone will. And this is where I think the conversation has not been honest enough. Doing this in the name of keeping things the same assumes that no growth is an option, and it just isn't. We're in a region that's growing. Coastal Virginia is growing. The entire Southeast is growing. Every southern state in the United States is growing. We can't unwind the world. We can manage it, but the more we try and block it, the more it seems we're getting in our own way. There's a second assumption that needs to be challenged then, and that's that low density preserves affordability, or that it preserves community character. I would say I am on Bihar, and I'm not representing Bihar this evening, but we do not manage low density housing aesthetics and architecture. If we were to advocate for only high density housing, among any of the council who's sitting here tonight, or myself, Jeff, I think your house would be the only one that might get built because you have enough space on either side. Not too sure about all the additions and everything, but that's a different thing. But we have to think about what we are advocating for in keeping aligned to the downtown, and then we have to pay for it. I'm not here to argue against open space. I'm here to argue against open space with no strategy. Right now, we have a $6.5 million acquisition, no defined use, no revenue plan, and no explanation of the long-term financial impact. Outcome has been mentioned. I've heard that word a couple of times from Mr. Cutler, from you, Darren, from a couple of speakers. That's a premature word. We don't have an outcome yet. We have a transaction that's being discussed. That's a means to an end. What that end will be and what that outcome will be, no one has a plan or a vision for at this point, and that's disconcerting. My ask is, before the process moves further, please clearly present to the public the estimated annual revenue lost from removing these properties from the rolls, the projected cost to develop and maintain any proposed uses, and a framework for how this property will either generate revenue or offset its cost over time, and then engage the public with that information. Without it, you're not asking residents to weigh options. Brainstorming is good, but we're being handed the Sears Christmas catalog, and we're not being told what the household budget actually is for the year. And that's a disservice to the residents and actually to you at council, who would have to field all these rather irate inquiries why we're not going to get everything we're asking for. Smithfield deserves better than that. We can preserve what makes this town special, and we can plan responsibly for its future, but that requires honesty about trade-offs, not just the aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Mr. Bowman.
To Ms. Lehman's comments, I think to assert, based on the discussions that at least I've had with members of council as well as with the town manager, it's not likely that we've gone into this decision nilly-willy. We've made some cost-benefit analyses that deal with the amount of time that was available to purchase this property, number one. Number two, the cost. I still stand firm that within the next few weeks, months, or whatever, you will find that 50-some acres of prime property in the town of Smithfield is well worth the $6.5 million compared to some other transaction that likely may occur within the county or close proximity. I stand by that. We also know that the town manager will be developing a master plan. Will be as soon as, if this passes, based on also some of Mr. Cutler's suggestions, we're not just going to sit here and say, well, there it is, the clock's running, we twiddle our thumbs. We're going to move toward doing this and engaging, as Ms. Bevan said, the public and folks to give us an idea as to what they want. It was mentioned a little while ago, we finally have controllability of the shining star on the western end of the town of Smithfield. That's the entrance corridor to the historic district. And to me, sir, that is worth something. And I just want to be as vocal as I can. I wouldn't support throwing $6.5 million out the window and then saddling, because if they're saddled, I'm saddled. And with reassessment coming, I get my share of saddle with the burr as well. So, I mean, it's not taken lightly over this decision that's being made. What we decide to do as a council and what we do with the input of the citizens, whether it's open space on this end, whether it's this on this end or whatever, will be a collective agreement to be made. But it's not as if we have not taken this decision, at least from my perspective, under many nights of toss, turn, and wondering what's the best or whatever. So I just wanted to make that comment, and that's a personal comment. So
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
leave it at
Bowman.
that.
Next on the list, we have Allison Crocker. Is she here tonight? Yeah, she had submitted a typed and handed it into support of the recent purchase.
I have
And
that letter here.
You've got that letter, and she's going to be emailing that to the council members. Next, we have Ross Younger.
Good evening. My name is Ross Younger, 19001 Farm Road. After hearing other speakers and Councilman Cutler's comments, I pretty much have to change everything I was going to say because everyone's gone over everything. I'm a little disappointed that I don't know how many council members were on the council when Pierceville originally went up for sale, when they had the opportunity to buy it at $2.1 million. And they bought, my wife attended a lot of meetings where they were trying to preserve that, to keep it historical. And the town was given the opportunity then to come up with a decision to possibly purchase it then, but declined to do so. And since it was sold, most of the historical part of that property has been destroyed. It was destroyed within a few months of it being purchased, so there would be no way to bring it back. Another speaker mentioned all the possible burial grounds. How much of this land is the town going to be able to use because of historical items on that land if they start construction and run into a burial site or run into a foundation of an old building that no one knew about? How much of that land is still going to be usable for that? Again, I'm a little bit, the transparency part of it with the behind closed door sessions, I understand a little bit because of negotiating between the two parties. You don't want the prices to get out and who's possibly someone else coming in offering a higher price. I understand that, but I think a little bit more transparency should have been used, and it should have been announced maybe better in the paper, as Mr. Cutler said, but still to make a $6.5 million decision, kind of behind closed doors, and then after the fact find out that you have 45 days to get out of it. I don't think it's a good purchase, at least at this price. I may be proven wrong when property values go up. But again, my concern is how much of that land will you be able to use, and of what use can you put it to that will benefit the public if you do so purchase it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Younger. We have no one else signed up. Does anyone else like to speak at this time? Mr. Hines?
After what I've heard everybody else say, Bob Hines, 216 Washington Street. Thing about the farmer's market, I invite all of you to go to the Raleigh Farmer's Market. It's too much for a day trip. You need to see how big that is. The farmer's market here, I walked through it Saturday. It's busting, I agree. I think if you're gonna build a building for farmer's market, you got a little bit larger than what's been talked about. But I see this with that too, because is it gonna be able to support itself? Or the taxpayers gonna have to support it? Will it make enough money? If it will, great. That's good. Another thing as far as I understand y'all are up against time constraints. That's kind of a tough thing to be up against. I understand you're saying toss and turn at night, I get that. Talking about due diligence, and I understand, like Mr. Younger just said about the closed sessions, that you can't tip your hand on what you're doing. I get that, and the closed sessions are not human sacrifices or incense and, you know, secret handshake and all that sort of stuff. But like we said with Nixon, when he got in trouble, what did you know and when did you know it? Some people say it was a setup, but that's another story. So with y'all, I understand you say you did your due diligence, you wrestled with it, you figured it out, but the deal is over with now. So what y'all did in closed session, what you talked about, how you arrived at your decision, why can't that be brought out now? How did you arrive at it? Just to say, it's kind of like with, you know, Riddick's pay raise, which I didn't have a problem with the money, but it's like, we just did it, and that's okay. Never got held accountable. That wasn't right. But what did you do? How did you do it? Sell us on it, what your reasoning is. Now, I'll just say this, my speculation, alluding to what Mr. Bowman was kind of hinting at maybe, if some developers come in here and gave a big offer, and this is what we had to do to control the property, well, okay. But if that's the case, why can't they be stated now if that's the case? So how did you arrive at it and sell us on it as to how you arrived at what you did? I don't know why that can't be disclosed at this point. I would like to hear it, and I think everybody else would too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Anyone else would like to speak at this time?
I'm Dr. Rosa Holmes Turner, and I am the principal chief of the Wallace-Squayak Indian Tribe. Address is 4820 Old Stage Highway, Smithfield, Virginia, in Mathomic Village, our capital village. And I am just here to let you know that I'm not against this. I just want y'all to know that, because I know that's a rare thing. I'm not against it. But last week, I just finished the Emerging Developers Program with Virginia Housing. I probably developed maybe about 9 developments from Williamsburg to Staunton to Bristol for 2 developers, one out of Greenville, South Carolina, and the other one in Bristol, Virginia. And I've been a housing consultant for probably, I don't know how many years. Retired from Newport News Shipbuilding, so design, build everything from a Virginia-class submarine to a $4 billion aircraft carrier. All my life has been design, construction, and building and engineering. I wish Mr. Walton had stayed, because I also trained Virginia Tech students in architecture and engineering. I trained Hampton University, Norfolk State, and Virginia State. So one of the things that I see about your property, you know, I don't have my compliance hat on, because if I did, I would be talking about how y'all derived at your price. But I don't have that hat on today. I'm principal chief. So for that, I just want you all to know that the properties that you're talking about, it is historic. If you go to the Department of Virginia Historic Resources, you will find out that they have documented with Department of Interior and National Park Service that everything in Isle of Wight County, Smithfield, Surrey County, and those areas surrounding are historic, can be designated historic. It's up to the chiefs to decide which ones we want historic, which ones we don't, because we know we got to have building. We got almost 200,000 housing units that we need in Virginia. That's why we're in training. The properties that we did properties that got 9% tax credits. Others got 4% tax credits. When we, the chiefs, decide to designate a property as historic or need for development, we also designate that property as an opportunity fund zone. What does that mean? That means that your individuals that you're looking at, your potential businesses, your hotel, if you want to know a hotel that I designed and not be a project manager on, I know you went to the Maine at Norfolk Hilton Conference. Enjoy yourself, and thank Rosa for being a part of that. It's a lot of things that we got to do around here. We understand that, but you do need to include your community. One of the things my father told me, he was a U.S. Army Air Corps in the Korean War, and also a paratrooper. And one of the things he told me, don't go all over the world helping people around the world and not take care of home. So I'm a stakeholder here. I have enrolled members in the town of Smithfield, and when they call me, I come. So I just want you all to know that we are stakeholders, and we want to be a part of your planning. We want to be a part of your committee. We want to be a part of making sure that the right information get out, and we want to make sure that you count the cost in what you do. Now, prime example, sometimes when you're talking about the prices that you do, Joe Luda is not the only stakeholder in this community. You forget about Mallory Todd. You forget about the Spruill family. You forget about the Pierce family. You forget about the Womble family. You tore those properties down without considering that you're tearing our history. And as a member of the American Friends of the Marquis de Lafayette and the American 250 Project, I've been going around the state and everything, and as well as with our governor, making sure that we're recognized. I'm in Williamsburg, making sure that we're recognized. We're not only just us, but we're France and Spain and the U.S. So that Smithfield would have a voice, so that Isle of Wight would have a voice. So when you all are doing this project, and yes, when you go to dig something and you go around my tributary, which is the Pagan River, then what happens? The Army Corps of Engineers call me to review your plans. They call me to review your permits. And it's up to me when I say yes or no. And so I said, let us be involved with the process so we have a positive outcome from everybody and that project supports everybody. Yes, I miss Little Store there because I used to go when I was little. I miss it, we need it, but we need more than just that. We need the farmer's market. If you want to see an example of what a farmer's market can be in training, go up to Virginia State and look at my brother, Aubrey Holmes, a resident of Isle of Wight County right here, who's teaching young people how to be young farmers and make sure that we bring funding. So the other things that we do when you got developers and manufacturers, you've lost so much income with Smithfield Packing right now. And if you all don't remember, what it's been like, maybe 4,000 people that used to work there, and what do you have now, maybe 600? You got to look at what's going on. But whatever you do has got to make money. When I talk about opportunity fund, that's an investment. That means my investors can come in, $5 million here, $10 million here, because they get their credits, they get their certificates, they get their breaks that they need to have. Have some wise planning, and don't forget to include all of your community, not just a part. And then we'll be glad. But yes, when I go and crush the numbers, we crush the numbers for real. And we make sure that it counts the cost and it makes sense. For those of you all who didn't vote with this, we understand, and we support you too. But we understand those that did. But when you do things that are non-compliant, and I always say, when I go up and I do an investigation and I got to testify before the federal government or anything else, and somebody come and tell me, I don't know, you know what I tell them? You may not have known, but you should have known. So make sure that when you make a decision, and I've always learned this even when I signed for the Navy, is that when I sign on that dotted line, be willing to defend it. So if you're willing to defend it, let us come in and help you so we can make sure it's a win-win for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Anyone else at this time like to speak?
Dennis Arenello, 113 Goose Way, 2 points. For me, the heart of the matter is simply a fundamental breach of your fiduciary duties and your willingness to accept the $6.5 million asking price set by the seller, the Luder LLC, without so much as even commissioning an independent appraisal to protect the taxpayers. Secondly, your first and final obligation is to the citizens, the taxpayers of the town. Not to the seller, not to a timeline, and not to the comfort of avoidant scrutiny. I am calling on this council to do the right thing. Put this to bed. Find out what this property really assesses at. Let's come up with the right figure. Commission a full and independent appraisal before a single dollar of taxpayer money is spent. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. At this time, I need a motion to, for the acquisition of the disposition of real property. Michael Stallings, do you want to have any comments on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could just
Yes.
clarify a bit, because I think one issue, I wanted to correct the record a bit, that the agenda had, there's two resolutions that are going to be before you tonight on this property, and you've already passed one. So just before you take a vote, I thought it'd be helpful to kind of do a little quick history. You know, your prior resolution was an acquisition resolution, which authorized town staff to move forward with the purchase contract that's been discussed tonight. And I think to correct everything for the public as well is that the property is currently under contract and it's in the due diligence period that's been referenced, which is the time for the town to do studies or review the materials that were provided by the seller and decide whether or not it wants to proceed with the acquisition. That's already been voted on and approved. We're in the contract period, so the property's under contract. The town has until April 20th to make a decision on whether or not to exit the contract on the basis of a due diligence issue. After that, you'd proceed to closing in accordance with the terms of the contract. That is something that's authorized under Virginia Code for the acquisition of property for public use, and you can do that by a simple resolution, which is what you did at your prior meeting. This resolution that's before you and that we just had a public hearing on is on a separate section of the Virginia Code 15.2/1802, and what it says is if the town's considering acquiring property not necessary for public use but for the development of business or industry, you do need to conduct a public hearing, which is what you've just done. I think the reason that the town has done that is that, as has already been stated, you don't know what the future of this property is. So the reason for this public hearing was to preserve the opportunity for the town to use the property for public use, private use, or some combination thereof. And so that resolution, which has been provided to you, should be on your desks, is what's before you for a vote now. Next in your agenda is a financing resolution. That does not require a public hearing, but that's going to be in consultation with your financial advisors to give you some information about what the options are for the town to pay for the acquisition of the property. So that's going to be the third resolution. But the one that's before you now is that 15.2/1802 resolution, which under state code would authorize you to sell the property or lease the property to private industry. It doesn't obligate you to do so, but it gives you that option once you've determined what your development plan is for the property.
That gives us the opportunity to, if that does arise, to be able to do that. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
If we did not do that, then we would have to maintain the property ourselves entirely. Is that correct?
If you hadn't done this hearing,
yes,
yes, you would have only have voted to acquire it for public use. So if you in the future had decided, hey, we don't need all the property, or we have a great tenant that we'd like to bring in and lease the land to, then you would have had to go through additional steps. This is giving you the opportunity on the front end to do whatever town council determines in consultation with the citizens, whatever you determine to be best for the property.
Any council members have any thoughts or directions or questions to Mr. McKenzie?
Yes, Chris. So a yes vote on this puts us in a position down the road to control what we do with that property. It has no impact on the pending contract, nor does it interrupt our ability to withdraw within the 45 days. It's completely separate.
Yes, thank you. That's a great summary. Yes, and that's exactly what's going on here. Is that this is giving you options moving forward, but the contract is a separate issue, and it was already authorized by that prior resolution. It's already been adopted.
Thank you.
Any other council member have any comments for Mr. McKenzie?
Chris, to make sure that I understand, you talked about the 45-day due diligence. Okay, would the public hearing tonight be considered part of our due diligence?
Well, the due diligence is within the town's discretion about what it feels it needs to conduct. Certainly, you know, you received comments tonight. I think you could include that in your assessment of due diligence. But really, traditionally, what due diligence is going in and studying the property, really usually for your intended use. The catch here is that there isn't a clear development plan yet. And so a lot of the things that would traditionally be done in due diligence, you know, making sure, you know, frankly, you know, the zoning's okay, or, you know, there's no wetlands issues. Those things, you know, aren't really, it's difficult for you to study them because you don't know what you want to build there quite yet. With that said, because this property changed hands relatively recently, as part of the transaction, you received materials already from the current owner from their studies. So those can be part of your due diligence. But that's the type of thing. Usually it's more of a study of the land that's conducted during the due diligence period. Obviously, the public hearing requirement is unique to you as a governmental entity and was required under the state code.
Anyone else have any other questions for Mr. McKenzie? Hearing none, what's the will of council? Once again, it's the resolution to...
Yes, there's a resolution. Yes. Yeah, the resolution titled Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Smithfield, Virginia, authorizing acquisition of property pursuant to 15.2/1802 of the Code of Virginia. So that's the resolution that's before you tonight, and I can read a portion of it.
Can you please read it out for the public
Sure thing.
benefit as well?
Yep. So I just read the title, and it says, whereas by resolution adopted March 3rd, 2026, the Town Council of the Town of Smithfield previously approved the purchase of 20 parcels of real property in the town collectively containing 57.69 acres, more or less, for the public use pursuant to that certain real estate purchase agreement between Town Council and LSMP LLC, effective March 6, 2026, and the closing on the property in accordance with the terms of that agreement. Whereas, pursuant to 15.2/1802 of the Code of Virginia, the town is authorized to acquire land within its boundaries for development thereon for business or industry, provided the town council has held a public hearing concerning such proposed acquisition, and whereas such a public hearing was held by town council at its meeting on April 7, 2026, now therefore be it resolved by the town council of the town of Smithfield, Virginia, that it is in the best interest of the town and its citizens for town council to acquire the property in accordance with 15.2/1802 of the Code of Virginia as amended, to allow for the potential development thereon of business and industry, such that all or a portion of the property may in the future be leased or sold at public or private sale to any person, firm, or corporation who will locate thereon any business or manufacturing establishment. The foregoing resolution is in supplement to and in no way supersedes or amends the Town Council's previously adopted March 3rd, 2026 resolution.
So we would need a motion to approve this resolution as read.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we accept that proposal as read.
Have a motion from Mr. Harris.
Second.
We have a second. We have a second from Ms. Beavermeyer. Any other further discussion? Call for the question.
I just want to say
I'm sorry,
something.
Ms. Beavermeyer.
Since I've been mostly silent on this acquisition and the contract, I think that the reason I've been in favor of this purchase and proposal for acquisition, long before I got on council, I spoke up numerous times against the Grange property. I did not agree with the fact that there were going to be 260-some homes built in downtown Smithfield. I still stand on that. Others had different opinions. That's fine. Now we get the opportunity to be in control of this property I understand there are questions about the process. I get that. And the price, as Mr. Bowman has stated, I think in the long term, I think we will find out that this is a fair price. It puts us in control of Smithfield. It puts us in control of the downtown area. Otherwise, we could have 262 homes there, 67, whatever it was. And I think as we go forward, I don't know what's going to go there, but I do think it gives us opportunity for both public and private use of it with citizen involvement, with a lot of citizen involvement. And I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. They all have value, and I appreciate that. And I've gotten a few emails here and there from citizens as well, and I appreciate those. We will continue this. We'll continue this discussion, and this is not something that's going to happen in a year, in 2 years. This is a long-term project for Smithfield, and I think it's going to be a great project. I'm excited about it, even if we don't know exactly what it is. I think we are back in the driver's seat here, and I think that is good for Smithfield.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Beavermeyer. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
No.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have a resolution for the finance options of the land purchase. Mr. Stallings?
Yes, sir. While I'm teeing this up, we've got representatives from Davenport Financial who are our financial advisor. As part of this contract process, I was asked to put out requests for proposals for financing options for this purchase. Davenport did that on our behalf. We did a RFP for proposals from banks, and we sent that out to, I believe, 40 different banks across the state as well as national, and we did receive proposals. So I'll have them go over what we received, give you their recommendations on proceeding forward with financing the purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Stallings. I appreciate that. Again, I'm David Rose. I've been in front of y'all over the years and represent Davenport. Ben Tolbert is with me, one of the young fellas, also a Virginia Tech graduate, meaning from Mr. Gwaltney. I was a chemistry major at Harvard, so I didn't blow myself up. That's why I'm here. But I did have a professor that was a Nobel Prize winner, and he said, "You really don't have a history in chemistry, or a future, I should say." I had a history, which was done. So
you didn't bring anybody from UVA or CNU with you by chance?
I did not, but we have all those
okay.
schools. And, yes, so I appreciate it. My mother used to teach at CNU, so very much appreciate and know how special a place it is. I won't be long this evening. Let me make sure, Ms. Stallings, you have copies that they've seen?
It was provided digitally.
Okay. All right, with all that said, I would like to thank, again, Ms. Ross as well as Mr. Stallings. Without their input and help, we could not be here. So I'm just going to move quickly, if I could, Mr. Mayor, through our little presentation. There's an old saying my father used to say, when you're explaining, you're losing. We don't have a lot of explaining to do. We have good results. That is in great part because the town financially is in very strong shape. May not have always been the way, but it has been, and for the last several years. So with all that being said, Mr. Stallings contacted me, and we talked about going out as your fiduciary and looking at possible funding options, both in the short run and the long run. And what I mean by short run is up to 5 years. We call that an interim funding approach, and the long term, 15 and 20 years. The good news here is we received responses from all banks, covering all of those possible 4 options. So with that said, we asked for $6.7 million. That number could change here and there, but basically that's been the focus. We also asked those banks that we cared a lot about flexibility. Given what y'all have talked about tonight, not knowing exactly what will be the end purposes for this property, we wanted to keep it very flexible. So with that said, we also paid a premium on flexibility. As I indicated a moment ago, page 3 here, we received 6 bona fide proposals. When you look at the names, what you find is they are both local, regional banks, as well as the nation's largest bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, actually sent in a quite solid proposal. It's not going to be our recommendation to you tonight based upon working with staff, but again, it speaks highly that firms that are not just located in our backyard, but are also located nationally, if not internationally, believe that Smithfield is a town they're willing to invest in, and yet they have no particular ties directly to you. So with all that said, on page 4, as I turn the page, we wanted to highlight what we thought were the best results. We've shown a 3-year interim option and a 5-year interim option. If you were thinking between the two of them, it was really quite easy. The 3-year option was a fixed rate of 3.82%. The 5-year was just a few basis points lower, or higher, I should say, at 3.9%. So from our perspective, and given the fact that the 5-year option had an ability to prepay it in whole or in part at any time with no penalty, that effectively means we the town collectively, make that decision at our will and call. So we like that a lot. The 3-year, interestingly enough, was a little more structured, had some more nuance to it, but yet the 5-year, between the rate and the call provision, couldn't ask for anything more. Sub 4%, just so you know, when we first started working with the staff, and I've worked with, again, Mr. Stallings before, we used purposely a 5% interest rate. I can tell you as your advisor, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to make a judgment on anything other than to say that your ability to pay for this is there. It's solid. Your overall debt portfolio is very strong. And as a result, these banks, as well as your advisor here, really believe that you are not doing anything that gets beyond the white lines, if you would, if you're going down the road. We feel very comfortable. I do. I've been doing this now almost 45 years. So I've seen the town evolve. I've seen the county evolve. And again, very much comfortable. You are in very, very good financial shape. I think you all know that, but I think the citizens can take some comfort in that as well. So I wanted to point that out. Next page, on page 5, if you were to entertain a more permanent option, there was both a 15-year provided and a 20-year. Interestingly enough, they were different banks that were most aggressive. The 15-year option was a 4.15%, very good result, whole or in part, prepayable anytime. And the 20-year option was a 4.61%. Again, had some hair on it as it relates to some of the contingencies for the prepayment. But when all is said and done, while all 4 options are viable, why we ultimately, in talking to your staff on page 7, are recommending going with the 5-year is a couple of things. Number one, given what you've said tonight, what we knew going in is that it's an attractive interest rate, but it is the most flexible. We don't know, again, what the final disposition of that property will be. As one of your council people mentioned, it's going to be several years. We think 5 years gives you a good amount of time to decide on things, or to even do things in piecemeal, that's your decision. In addition, in talking to Sands Anderson, which of course is bond counsel, one of the things they brought up was this concept of taxability or issues. And what I mean by that is this interest rate that we're getting, if we choose it, is tax exempt. That's very important because you and I as individuals cannot borrow on a tax exempt basis. But as a town, we are a not-for-profit. We're able to borrow on a tax exempt basis. As a result, there are certain federal rules, IRS rules that we have to follow. And by looking at this, if we were to do something in a more permanent basis, 15 or 20 years, and lock into that higher interest rate, but still positive, we might run into some taxability issues down the road. So that was what we were, if you want to call it, counseled by legal counsel to be considered. That further underscored our recommendations and belief that 5 years, not worrying at all about taxability at that point because it's so flexible. So with all that said, the last page, on page 8, the schedule, what we would consider here, or ask you to consider, is a resolution that was put together by bond counsel directing to proceed, and that would incorporate a May 5th public hearing. We're required to have a public hearing anytime a local government in Virginia borrows money. Have to have a public hearing, especially when it's secured by the full faith and credit of the town, which is very standard. That would occur, as I understand it, on May 5th at 6:30. And if that indeed goes forward, and you move forward with this, a closing would occur on May 13th. So at that time, we would have the full amount of funds. Those funds would be immediately invested through the state local government program that the state treasurer runs. We do not, again, manage those for you purposely. That's a very well-known program. It's a sister, if you would, to the local government investment pool that also local governments have that is non-borrowed money. This program I'm talking about is purely borrowed money, and then, of course, at the time that you have to pay that out, that would happen. So again, it would be a very easy process. Happy to answer any questions, but do appreciate the opportunity. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job. I appreciate your work. Well presented. Does anyone have any questions for Dave at this time? Mr. McKenzie, we don't have to vote on this tonight, do we?
Vote to go to
We
public
do?
hearing.
Yes,
I thought the public hearing was,
that'll be a
that's
separate,
just the next one?
this authorizes them to proceed
Proceed.
with the recommended option, and then we'll have a public hearing on that. But right
Okay.
now, you need to pick from the menu that was presented, which is accomplished via the resolution in your packet.
When do we decide which path we want to go down? Is that part of the motion?
The motion, there's a resolution in the packet that would approve the town bank option, which is what's recommended by
Right.
Davenport.
And that's the 5-year, isn't that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. And what that would do is then set a public hearing for your next council meeting to actually, after that public hearing, you would officially vote to proceed with the financing. So the resolution tonight would start us down that path to a public hearing at the May council meeting.
So we need a motion to accept the resolution.
If that's the will of council.
Anyone have any questions?
Now, and I'll just say internally, we agree with their recommendation. For the next 5 years, it's interest payments, but we can pay more than that, based on available funds. At the end of 5 years, we'll kind of know where we're going, and we'll know if we need a bigger part of a bigger borrow for the project, and then we incorporate this into that. So there will be a long-term financing solution that's, we decide on before the end of the 5 years. So this gets us to that point. It's also very manageable in the next several years for our budget as far as that's concerned. So this sets us up to be able to spend that time doing the due diligence from the master planning and determining what the next steps are for the project.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Could
sir.
I have either you or Mr. McKenzie read the resolution? I had some technical difficulty on my computer where the document will not come up. I have read it previously, but I'd like to hear it again. I think the public would like to hear it as well.
I'm happy to do that.
If it's okay with you.
Resolution of the Town Council of Town of Smithfield, Virginia, approving town bank option. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Smithfield, Virginia directed Davenport and Company LLC to prepare and distribute a request for proposals to obtain financing proposals to finance property acquisition and other related costs for town facilities. The financial advisor, Davenport, reviewed responses to the RFP for the financing of the project, and along with Town Bank's bond counsel, Sands Anderson, and the town manager, recommends that the Town Council accept the 5-year option in the proposal dated March 30th, 2026 from Town Bank. They're called the lender from here on out, for such financing with an interest rate as determined as set forth in the proposal and subject to the terms set forth therein. And whereas in order to issue its up to 6.7 million general obligation bond series 2026, which is the bond, to finance the project in accordance with the proposal, the town must hold a public hearing and approve the issuance of the bond in accordance with the Public Finance Act, that's section 15.2, 2600 at sec of the Code of Virginia as amended. Bond counsel, which is my firm, will present to town council for consideration an ordinance or resolution and related financing documents to approve the issuance of the bond at its May 5th, 2026 town council meeting following the public hearing in connection with the transaction described above. Be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Smithfield, Virginia, the following plan for financing the project pursuant to the proposal is approved. Town Council approves and directs town staff to work with bond counsel and the financial advisor, which is Davenport, to advertise a public hearing regarding the issuance of the bond in accordance with the act. The town shall use the proceeds from the issuance of the bond to provide for the financing of the project. The bond is expected to be issued as a general obligation of the town to which full faith and credit of the town will be pledged. The form of the documents described herein will be approved by town council by subsequent ordinance or resolution following the public hearing held in accordance with the act. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
We have a motion to approve the resolution. And we have a second by Mr. Brooks. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
No.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Motion passes. At this time, have any new business come before us? Hearing none, the next old business.
Yes, sir. The only item we have tonight for old business is, again, the Town Council Policies and Procedures Manual. After the last council meeting, there were some changes at the meeting that were discussed that were added, and that revised copy was uploaded to the agenda for your review. I did not receive comments from anybody else. Prior to that, Mr. Cutler's the only one, who had sent them in previously, so you all have those. Outside of that, I did not receive any other comments. So this is, again, here for your discussion and direction.
Any other discussion pertaining to this? I know we've been over this back and forth for some time. It's a good starting point, I think, and it can be amended at any time. Isn't that correct, Michael?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Is there, we had discussed this at the last committee meeting about changing, and it may seem minor, but changing it from a policies and procedures manual to guidelines, which may seem a little less harsh, I don't know, for lack of a better word. or more palatable to some of the other council members.
At this juncture, I tend to agree. For the reasons stated by
Right.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer.
So the new name change would be, is there a recommendation for that?
The town council guidelines.
Anyone have any comments about that?
So moved.
We have a motion then. We call it the Town Council Guidelines. And there's no policies or manual. Can we put manual in there?
Sure.
Guideline manual? Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Beavermeyer. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebmeyer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
I don't like that, but I'm going to say yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Motion passes. This time, we have any additional discussion tonight? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.